Vanilla might be the most familiar flavor in the world, but the real vanilla beans is incredibly rare because every single one begins with a flower that lives for just few hours and only becomes a vanilla beans after a human hand step in. Without that tiny intervention, the flavor used by billions of people simply wouldn't exist. So, how did a plant used by millions of people become completely dependent on human hands? For centuries, this question puzzled botanists. When the vanilla orchid was taken from its native forest in Mexico and planted across the tropics, something strange happened. The plants grew perfectly well, they produced beautiful flowers, but they never produced vanilla beans. Not in Asia, not in Africa, not anywhere outside its original home. For nearly 300 years, nobody knew why. The answer lies in the flower itself. Vanilla comes from an orchid species called Vanilla planifolia, and its flower has a strange design. Inside the blossoms, a thin membrane separates the male and female reproductive organs. These tiny barriers prevent the plant from pollinating itself. In the wild, the flower relies on a very specific pollinator, a small stingless bee from the genus Melipona. This bee is involved alongside vanilla in the forest of Central America. But outside of that ecosystem, the pollinator simply doesn't exist. So the flowers bloom and then die a few hours later without producing anything. There is another problem. A vanilla flower only opens once, and it stays open for just a few hours in a single morning. If pollination doesn't happen in that tiny window, the opportunity is gone forever. Now imagine trying to build a global spice industry around a plant that blooms for only a few hours, depends on a rare pollinator, and refuses to reproduce almost every on Earth. For centuries, vanilla remained one of the most mysterious crops in the world. The mystery was finally solved in 1841, not by a famous scientist, but by a 12-year-old enslaved boy named Edmund Albius. He discovered that the barrier inside the flower could be lifted with a small stick. Then the pollen could be pressed directly onto the female part of the flower. The entire process takes just a few seconds. That tiny discovery changed agriculture forever. Today, almost every vanilla bean in the world exists because of that technique. Farmers must walk through their fields each morning during flowering season and pollinate every single flower by hand. This is why vanilla is one of the most labor-intensive crops on Earth. Around 80% of the world's supply now comes from Madagascar. And every bean you see in the store represents a moment when a human deliberately intervened in a plant's reproduction. Vanilla seems might ordinary, but the truth is, real vanilla is one of the most expensive spices on Earth. In fact, most people have never tasted real vanilla in their lives. What we usually consume is just an extract or synthetic flavor molecule called vanillin. The real thing is rare because every single vanilla bean begins with a fragile moment. A tropical orchid, a flower that lives for only a few hours, and carefully human touch that finish nature's work. And also, every time you taste a real vanilla, you are tasting one of the most unusual partnerships between nature and humanity.